Before the show starts, again, just like to say a big thank you to the sponsors, Air Canada Cargo, ATC Aviation, Bombelli, Cool Dolly and Cool Storage Solution, Etihad Cargo, and Sarco Airport Equipment. Thank you all so much. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are again, another session at the Pharma Digital event. And I'm so pleased to say we've got three colleagues from the industry from somewhere very special, Singapore, and I'd like to introduce them now. So first and foremost, we've got Jaisey Yip, who's the Head of Cargo and Logistics Development for Changi Airport. So Jaisey, lovely to see you and thank you for coming on board.
Thank you, Chris.
Really appreciate it.
Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. Let's hope so as we go through the rest of the podcast. No, it will be, I promise you. And then we've got Daniel Wong, who's Head of Strategy, Planning and Engineering with SATS Cargo Services. So Daniel, welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Glad to be here.
Very good. And last but by no means least, we got Suan, who's the GM Key Accounts and Verticals for Singapore Airlines Cargo. So Suan, thank you so much again.
Thanks, Chris, for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. So we've got the entire, well, almost the entire Singapore team within logistics. All we needed was a forwarder, but I know that Singapore is going to get a very, very, very good, let's say, good audience and a good display from the three of you. So really looking forward to it. Now, can I ask each of you, please, just to give us a little bit of an introduction as to what you do and how this last 6 to 8 months has affected you and your business. So if we can start with you first, Jaisey.
Okay, thanks, Chris, for the question. So hi, everyone. I'm Jaisey. I'm the General Manager for Cargo and Logistics Development for Singapore Changi Airport. So in a few words, I will describe my role as overseeing the business development of Changi Airport's air cargo business. So what I do on a day-to-day basis, I look at both the demand and supply side of things. Right, so on supply side, we do account manage all the freighter operators in Changi Airport. We also talk to passenger airlines because of their belly hold capacity. On the demand side, I would say that we look after cargo verticals development. Over the last couple of years, there are a couple of verticals that is pretty special for Singapore as well as Changi Airport. And that includes pharmaceuticals, perishables, the cold chain side, e-commerce, as well as advanced manufacturing. So on this part of my job, we actually work very closely with our air cargo stakeholders like the freight forwarders, the cargo handlers, and the airlines, and even government agencies to develop and to push more cargo flows through Singapore. Now, the pandemic has started for us sometime in March. Yep. I would say that, I mean, I'm sure you heard this word a lot, right? It has been really unprecedented. And it has been quite, I would say, a challenging time. I would describe the last 9 months or so in 2 phases. So in the earlier months of the pandemic, I think we were all trying to stabilize the supply chain to ensure supply chain continuity. We were very focused on giving clear guidelines to our ecosystem, right? Yep. For example, when borders closed, there were a bit of questions regarding, for example, a crew layover in Singapore. Yep. And when the new phenomenon of PACC flights, passenger freighters, become a phenomenon, right? We also need to share with airlines what is the guidelines in Singapore, right? How do you load cargo in cabin, and how do you get approval for such a process? At the same time, we also need to take very good care of all our stakeholders in terms of their welfare, safety, as well as security. So a lot of work has been done to make sure that we have, all the physical distancing in place. We disinfect, all the cargo area in our Changi Airfreight Center. We make sure that all the staff is being well taken care of. So very much the first few months, it was really keeping our air cargo supply chain open. And back then, we also worked very closely with the different stakeholders and our government agencies to keep critical supplies, coming through Changi, and that includes your food supplies, as well as medical supplies like PPE. Yep. I would say that that has, in a way, been stabilized. So in the last few months, I think the hot topic is really the vaccines, right? We are expecting the vaccines to be approved and mass distribution to be kick off in the next couple of months. We are now very busy in raiding and preparing our air cargo sector for this logistical challenge.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, and now, and thank you very, very much for that. And now if we can move across to you, Daniel.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I'm Daniel Wong from SATS Cargo Services. So I'm the head of cargo strategy, planning, and engineering. So my primary focus is to look at how to move the cargo business forward. How do we develop new cargo solutions for our customers, and how do we position ourselves with the advancement of digitalization in the industry? So that's been my main focus. In the last 8 to 9 months, obviously, like what Jaisey has mentioned, the pandemic has really hit everybody hard. On our side, well, when we first went into the pandemic sometime in March and April, there was a lot of, first of all, there was a lot of apprehension because very little was known about the coronavirus, right? There was a lot of, I may say, fear, but very little was known about the virus. So the first few months was pretty much spent within the company to ensure that our workforce is safe, our workshop from the virus, to ensure that our ability to maintain the operations is not affected because of the virus. So that was the primary focus in the first 2 months. Well, when the pandemic hit, we saw about a 50% reduction in cargo volume initially. Not as bad as our colleagues on the passenger side, but still 50% cargo volume reduction. What we did was that we took the opportunity of this of this slowdown in business to really concentrate on training our people and revalidating all our SOPs, because we were confident that the cargo business, the cargo industry will rebound in a matter of time. So we took a lot of time spent on training our people. We sent a lot of people for training courses, and also we took a lot of time to review our SOPs, to look at status of our equipment. That was a good move, because in the last 1-2 months, we have really seen an uptick in the cargo business. At this moment that I'm speaking, I think we are almost at 78 to 80% of pre-COVID levels in terms of cargo handled in SATS. So that's a good thing, and we are preparing to go back to full steam ahead in the next few months. Right. So on the topic of the vaccine, well, that's on everybody's mind today, right? Because of the latest news announced by Pfizer, by Moderna, and certainly by AstraZeneca. And for SATS, we have, well, I would say that we have pretty much prepared ourselves for this by really back in 2010, where we set up a 8,000 square meter dedicated facilities for the handling of perishable and pharmaceuticals in Singapore. So, and along the way, we have improved on these facilities. And right now, well, obviously right now in the last few weeks, the focus has been how to use this facility, how to leverage on our experience on pharmaceutical handling to tailor it to the incoming vaccine handling.
Yeah,
and we are working very closely with the other stakeholders in the community, like what Jaisey has said. We are working very closely with CHANGI Airport Group. We are working very closely with Singapore Airlines. We are working very closely with the freight forwarders.
Yep, no, very good, very good. Thank you so much, Daniel. And now Suan.
Hello, hi, I'm Suan. My role in Singapore Airlines is in managing the key verticals for a company, of which, of course, healthcare is one of the utmost important, particularly now, and also to look after the key accounts for the company. I think Jaisey as well as Daniel has mentioned quite a bit of what pretty much happened. For us, it happened all pretty quickly. If I recall, like especially around, I think if I'm not wrong, it's end March to April, when the passenger flights were like reduced quite quickly. Initially, we were hoping for a V-shaped recovery, but soon, it comes quite clear that it's going to take a while. Yeah, but for us in the cargo world, things are very, very busy. The demand continues, the business is still there. We have all these volumes that are coming in. And what we did very, very quickly is to introduce the passenger aircraft carrying cargo only. We coined the term PACC, right? It was coined by one of our regional VP who is based in North Asia. So we call it PACC, passenger aircraft for cargo carriage only. So we set up a network. So actually, before we set up a network, initially we were running like charters, right? Because there was requests, but then very quickly, we set up a network to support this requirements for cargo. So I think, for us, again, very, very busy months, and pretty soon we started introducing the cargo in cabin, where we now could uplift cargo in the cabin. So we have 2 aircraft that was ready by Scoot, and then just probably like 2 months back, we started another 2 for Singapore Airlines. Those are the wide body 777-300s. And I think, like this few weeks been really busy for everybody, for me personally as well, but also very positive because we have heard positive news from the vaccine front.
Yeah.
So the last 3 weeks, we've seen a lot more information coming out as well for us to prepare for vaccine handling. Yep. And also, I think for the passenger side of business, there's optimism. We are in the recovery mode. We're planning to bring back the flights gradually.
Very good, very good. Guys, can I just ask you quickly, what's the status at the moment regarding COVID?
Yeah, I think in the past 1 week or so, the cases that we are reporting are mainly imported cases. So in terms of the community cases, I think very much has been contained for now. And we hope that it will stay that way.
Yeah. No, fingers crossed, touch wood. Yep, no, but it's very good. Now, I've been to Singapore many times, and obviously the last one was for the IATA World Cargo Symposium. Now, Singapore, for anybody that's been there, they know how well organized, structured, and supportive it is. Now, Jaisey, from an airport perspective, and looking after your own ecosystem, one of the things that I've been thinking for a long time is that airports now, they need to take more of a leading role as part of their ecosystem with everybody that's part of it. Now, I know that's practiced quite strongly there in Singapore. What has been the secret or the formula for success with bringing everybody together in Singapore?
Well, I would say that for Changi Airport, right, we always see ourselves playing the role of an orchestrator, right, when it comes to air cargo business, because we see ourselves as a neutral party, right? We have no commercial interest in any of the air cargo business. We are neither a freight forwarder, nor the cargo handler, nor the airline in the case of Changi Airport. So we thought that, we should play a very important role to get the entire ecosystem together with common objective. And we always believe in collaboration. And in the last couple of years, I would say that we have taken a very strong collaborative and cooperative approach with all our stakeholders. So one good example is, as you know, one of the common theme for the air cargo industry is how do we accelerate digitalization. So about 1 year plus or so, we have taken it upon ourselves to explore whether we could actually pursue an air cargo community system with our stakeholders. And I think we have gotten some success in that. We have actually launched our air cargo community system earlier this year. So we are starting with a couple of use cases where we work with the different stakeholders to start, sharing data in a very trusted and reliable manner, just to enable, more efficiency, to produce more productivity for everyone. And coming back to the vaccines, we are also taking a collaborative and community approach towards this logistical challenge. So at the global front, Daniel and I, we are part of this global task force called Project Sunrays, which is championed by both TIACA as well as Pharma.Aero. So we are very involved in that project in order to bring transparency between vaccine producers as well as the global air cargo industry. And at the local level, we have also started a public-private joint task force amongst key stakeholders, including Singapore Airlines, the 2 cargo handlers, and a group of freight forwarders, as well as the public sector comprising process agencies like custom, border control, security, to really discuss and pre-identify what could possibly be some of the bottlenecks or risk that could take place in some of our cargo flows when the vaccine distribution commence.
Yep.
I think we are treading along quite well on that track. So all in all, I would say that I think as an airport, I think we play a very important role in bringing everyone together and also to be a champion of community collaboration.
Yeah, no, I don't think that could have been better said. Jaisey, that's really well put together. Now, you mentioned there about Pharma.Aero and TIACA, which is a great initiative, and Sunrays. Now, as far as that's concerned, when they did the initial survey, parties were saying that perhaps the logistics chain wasn't as ready as it could have been. Now, the one thing that we all know, and thank God for the scientists, they've done a miracle. They perform miracles now by getting these vaccines all coming out and ready. But what's happened this last year, and you were talking about digitization and care and collaboration and all those, those good terms that are easily said, but not as easily practiced. Almost like in a decade, everything has been squashed into this year, to survive, to be sustainable. Now there's a different approach looking at business. Instead of just in time, now it's just in case, and people are bordering in between. But if the communities get together and they do that data sharing, it's something that we'll be able to throw away as one of the legacy waste issues prior to COVID, where everybody was, wanted to keep hold of everything, were a little bit scared of sharing. I think that's one good thing, touch wood, that will come out of this. And I think you definitely agree. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and really well put, Jaisey. Now, Daniel, as far as if we sort of go down the chain a little bit, you've got the freight forwarder who knows exactly what the pharmaceutical guys need and want, and then they're responsible then to make sure that everything downstream as it comes through the carrier to yourselves is handled the way it should be. Now, everybody has been talking about GDP and CEIV. Now, where do you stand with regards to the importance of both references, but especially CEIV now for our industry?
Well, Chris, for us, we actually place same level of importance for both. That's why for us, we are both CEIV and GDP certified. In fact, this is also our goal to be dual certified across our network of cargo terminals in 10 countries. And I think this is important because it is important that we cover both certification, because the reason being is that certain companies look at certain one of the certification more importantly than the other, and therefore it's good. And also it's always good to be certified for both, so that what we're trying to say is that we take the best of both to make it as strong as possible. That's how we see it. I would say that for the CEIV, which is also a little bit more aviation based because it's being spearheaded by IATA, that also allow us to work together with the other aviation or cargo supply chain stakeholders to make sure that the entire process is a robust process.
Yeah, no, very good, and I admire the fact that you see it as getting certified to both. You've covered everything then entirely. So yeah, well done. And I'm not surprised, Daniel. Not surprised at all, my friend. Now, Suan, with regards to the carrier, so obviously very important. You know what you need to do. You know how to get pharmaceuticals and the upcoming vaccines from point to point. Now, with extreme climates and weather conditions, obviously one of the concerns that you would have whilst you're giving the contracts to GHAs around your network is how do they actually manage on the ground? So what additional activities or requests or requirements have you put into your SLAs or your contracts?
Okay, I think relating to the vaccine handling, we have been, now just for example, just with SATS, since they're here, we do have very regular meetings with Daniel himself actually. We have our own task force. We have formed a task force to do this preparation. On a week, I think every 2 weeks, we have a face-to-face meeting with Daniel and his team to tie in a strict SOP for vaccine handling. So this SOP includes, like it will be different. It's based on our current pharma. We have a pharma product Troco. So it's based on this SOP, but tighter, right? So we're looking at tighter tow-in times, tow-out times, like for example, the containers. The industry standards, we read it like every 6 hourly, right? So we just agreed with Daniel, I think it was just last week, Daniel, to do it like read it every 4 hourly. So this is just an example. And now we also been talking to the Daniel's team in SLACS as well to look at dry ice to make sure that we have enough supply in Singapore, because we know that vaccines will be, to carry vaccines we definitely need dry ice carriage, right? So supply will be very important.
Now you're also
Hey, Chris,
sorry.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I think sorry, just to add, the other part is also the people front. Yeah, so we have rolled out training materials focusing on pharma handling and focusing on vaccines, so specifically to the stations where we are expecting the first phase of vaccines will come out, as well as to the main import countries for us, where Singapore is a good distribution hub for like Southeast Asia and Southwest Pacific countries.
Okay, very good. And so part of the through-call, you've got a quality corridor network. You want to just explain a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah, so we have been carrying pharmaceutical for a while, right? But the quality corridor is an additional measure that is more stringent. And what we do is we audit the stations, the ground handlers in the corridors, along the corridor, to standards equivalent to a CIV standards. Yes, and on top of it, we provide, we call it the thermal covers, thermal blankets.
Yep.
Yeah, so what we do is we feed it at the origin, and then we take it out at the destination. So this protects the pharma shipment from end to end.
Okay, very good. And
sorry,
Dan,
Chris.
yeah, sure, Jaisey?
Yeah, if I may, can I weigh in on the part about the GTP and CIV?
You certainly can, and welcome.
Yeah, I just want to add on, I just want to echo what Daniel has mentioned just now, right? I don't think it's fair for us to make a comparison between GTP and CIV, because I think they have different objectives, and I think they are both equally important. But the point about CIV, right? I think personally for us, I thought that with the IATA launch of CIV, it has actually allowed and enabled the air cargo industry to speak a common language.
Yes.
So in Singapore, as you know, we are the first in Asia Pacific to actually form the community to attain the CIV with Singapore Airlines, the cargo handlers, and the freight forwarders. And with that community approach, everyone is aligned with the objective, and we speak. And since then, right, we are speaking the same language, when it comes to pharmaceuticals handling. And in the last couple of years, I would say that there are also local and as well as global communities, right, that sprung out of CIV. If I may again, right, I mean, Pharma.Aero is a notable example, right? Yeah. The entire association is founded on the philosophy and principles of CIV. And our main mission is really to forge collaborations amongst global airport CIV communities. So I would say that CIV has really bring the community and the air cargo industry closer together when it comes to air pharma handling.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think right at the very beginning, when IATA was talking about it and introducing it, lots of people were seeing the additional cost and would they get a return on investment. But I think the points that you've raised there are very, very true. It's brought everybody together with a common understanding and the importance of pharma. And now, obviously, the world are seeing the importance of vaccines. It's so critical that people do things in a certain way.
Chris, if I on, if I may add on also to what Suan mentioned earlier about the vaccine handling. I think for the vaccine handling, I would say that every one of us now has a common goal.
Yeah.
Every one of us, be it at an organization level or even at a personal level, somehow we know how impactful has been the coronavirus, and all of us somehow even in a distant way know that someone did caught the coronavirus, and we're all very, very determined, I think, to overcome this pandemic, and therefore there is a common goal. I felt that there's a common goal, and that's why I think it will work very well in terms of collaboration, because everyone has got a common goal in terms of making sure that the vaccine handling will be smooth and the vaccine will arrive at the right place and be given to the right people.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, very valid and nice words there, Daniel. Really appreciate it. Now, with the launch, every Monday now has suddenly turned into good news. And now with that good news, people are starting to see hope. They're smiling a little bit more. They can see, they can see a positive light at the end of the tunnel. And I keep saying, and it's not the train coming towards us. It's something very positive. Obviously, a lot of respect and sympathy for anybody that's been affected. It's been a terrible time for so many people, and also for the poor people that have been displaced from their jobs in the industry that they love. But I think the learning experience and the coming together now of the entire industry is such that we've got the chance now to really, really move forward as we come out of this collectively as an industry. Now, with the vaccines that have come out, so obviously Pfizer, then the first thing people said was fantastic, and then and the but was because of the extreme temperature controls that were required. Then you got Moderna, and again, everybody's saying fantastic. Now there's another one, and then luckily we're seeing then a little bit more flexibility with regards to the temperature range. Then the Oxford and AstraZeneca, and the same sort of thing. Now, obviously, there's Sinovac, there's Sputnik 5, there's several others, and there's going to be lots more. So that whole combination is going to allow countries, communities to decide which is the best for them with regards to the capability of the logistics. However, for all of us that have been in the industry for so long, handling pharma and handling special goods is not unusual to us. It's not unusual. So as far as spreading that confidence and that capability, that's what needs to be done now from within the industry. Now, you've all spoken about training, and there's been a few mentions there about auditing. Okay. Now, if you look at a just culture and you're within an SMS human factor focus period, it's all about what people at the top say to the people at the bottom, how confident people and I shouldn't say top and bottom, but at each ends of the hierarchy. So the practical people who are performing the tasks, they know more than anybody at the top on a day-to-day basis as to what can and can't go wrong. Now that culture is so important. So how are you managing to cultivate that through everybody by letting them know why it's so important, but now more so that the eyes of the world see a positive community and there'll be no spoilage? How are you putting that across with your people? Suan, you wanna go from the carrier perspective first?
Yeah, sure. I think I think many people, especially everybody, right, that I've known, personally feels very strongly about doing their part for this important thing. This important event, and I think it's in all of us to want to do our best. But what we have done in addition to that is also we have actually curated like training decks specifically for vaccine handling. We will be engaged. I think we have started engaging some of our stations, particularly where the vaccines are coming from and into. We have spoken to them regularly. We're getting the feedback as well and getting the buy-in, taking in consideration the feedback, so that it's always better than when people has a buy-in, right? Rather than being told like, this is what you have to do. So we are not going on the top-down approach. It's really more consultative.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Very good. And Jaisey?
Yeah, I would say that the COVID-19 vaccine, right, is an acute topic, And it's very important, and it really touches everyone on a personal note. I think we are all waiting for the vaccines really to be approved in order to save lives and also to restart our economies. For us, I think as an airport, as I mentioned earlier on, I think what we have done is to really work alongside with the community. We have kicked off a joint task force, as mentioned, really is to create the kind of transparency to really share information and really to be honest with ourselves, whether there are potential bottlenecks and risks in the cargo flows, because our ultimate objective, right, is to make sure, I always say that the COVID-19 vaccines, right, need to handle with STAR performance, STAR. And S stands for security, T, transparency, A, agility, and R, reliability. And we are trying to get the community with this common objective that we need to handle each and every vaccine shipment with STAR quality. And I think that communication and collaboration is very important.
Oh, 100%. And well put. What was the STAR again?
Security, security,
yeah.
Transparency, agility, and reliability.
Very good. Yeah, believe you me, I shall be using that.
Sure, go ahead.
I do love an acronym. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Now, Daniel, just taking that concept forward, and you mentioned as well about, training and SOPs and everything. Audits are so important. So when organizations have a positive culture, they welcome self-assessments and audits, and they want to understand about continual improvement. That's so important in an organization. Now, I've been in many of your facilities. I know many of your management team, so I know that that's something that you do on a regular basis. But how important is it to help people understand how they're doing and why it's so important what they're doing?
Well, I think, Chris, I mean, for our organization, the day-to-day work that our people do expose them to certain risks of safety risks. And therefore, for us, we really take safety very seriously. And to the sense that, for example, even on a management level, even myself level, we do walk the ground, we do talk to the staff on safety. And when we do such walks, we only talk about safety. We don't talk about anything else, right? And also we have our monthly safety meeting where it's not, in a lot of companies, when you have safety meetings, when you look around the room, there are people who are executive and management. But our safety meeting comprises of staff from every level in the organization, representative of staff. So that's where these staff in the meeting, they will be able to see how serious our management is in terms of safety matters. And then also they will be able to see that whatever feedback that's taken, it is being acknowledged, is being worked on. And through this meeting, through this representative in this meeting, the word of mouth will go down to the floor that the management are really serious about safety, right? And then, of course, at the end of the day, like I mentioned, for this vaccine handling, there is a common goal of everybody to make sure that it goes well. And that in itself is a motivation for everyone to make sure that we do the right thing at the right time, at the right place.
Yeah, no, again, well put. And so we're talking about the SAG concept, the Safety Action Group principle. And I think it's great that you include it all the way from both ends, because when people can see how serious the senior management are taking it, then they also, like you said, they pass that across to their colleagues, and everybody understands. And this SAG principle, the Safety Action Group, is so important for any organization. And I think at this moment, for everybody in aviation, when people talk about dangerous goods and safety, we know the things that can harm us. But now with pharmaceuticals and with vaccines, it's what you do to it that could possibly harm others. And it's having that awareness and looking after other parties, and especially caring about it, that makes the industry so valuable.
And just to add on, within the cargo services business unit, we meet 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. This is what we call the operations meeting. where it is chaired by my boss, who is the overall responsible for the cargo services. And like I say, it's participated from every level, even some of the, what we call the cargo coordinators. And in this meeting, although the name is called the operations meeting, but the first item on the agenda is always on safety matters. So what happened that wasn't safe? How do we resolve that? So that has been the emphasis that we've been placed on safety.
Yeah, no, that's good. And like I said, everywhere where I've been associated, it's practiced. It's not just preached. So I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, guys, if I was to ask you now, from everything that you've done collectively and in a collaborative, and whether it's task forces, because you know people are hearing task forces everywhere, from governments all the way down to every single part of the business. So they're not sure how these task forces are coordinated, but it comes across very clearly that you guys have got your task force off pat and it's working very well. What would you say have been the biggest successes with all the shocks and the surprises and the risk assessments and the mitigations? What do you think have been the biggest successes of the Singapore task force and the way you've approached what has happened and now what needs to happen? So, Jaisey, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would actually say that, right, we actually commenced and kickstarted the task force quite short time frame, and we have everyone's commitment in terms of their time and resources. If I really think back, why is everyone, apart from, COVID-19 vaccine is being a very acute and paramount topic right now, I think it's also because all this while our air cargo community, we practice really back to the word collaboration, right? So several years ago, we have kicked off this local pharmaceutical initiative called Pharma at CHANGI, where we actually bring together all CIV certified companies together, and we have regular dialogues, on how we can do better in terms of pharma handling and how we can collectively promote Singapore as a trusted air pharma hub. And this community helps because during this crisis, when we call for help, everybody, responded to this. So when we say, yes, we need to start a task force, private and public, to see how we can address potential bottlenecks, identify risk, and see, and let's have a common goal on how we can solve this challenge. Everybody responded swiftly and very fast. And the task force was created, I would say, in a few days' time. And subsequently, we all organized ourselves in workshops and everybody came. So I would say that the success of the task force, it's too early to really mention success, but I would say the success in convening this task force is really due to the collaboration spirit that we have over the last couple of years.
Okay, wonderful. And Suan, what's your experience?
I agree. Because we already had collaboration in place, like what Jaisey has mentioned about Pharma and CHANGI. And also, I think it's also about being prepared. So for Singapore Airlines, we have been investing on the healthcare product that we have Truku for a while. We have been working on the expansion of the Truku corridor, right, which fits in really nice for, it really helps us now, but it's not new. It's something that we've been working on. So I think being prepared is very important, in addition to, of course, collaboration. We've seen a lot of openness in people. I think, just a lot of transparency. Everybody is really ready to help each other out. So since May, we internally have formed our own task force as well within the company. And as a task force, we have been engaging various parties in the supply chain to get ourselves ready. So, like when Jaisey called for the CHANGI task force, it was very fast for us to react as well and to be able to contribute. Yeah,
no, very, very, very good. And Daniel?
Well, Chris, if I may say, maybe expand a little bit. I think it is in our Singapore DNA that we collaborate and work together. Even at the government level, we have task force, inter-ministries task force, we have private public sector task force. So I think it's in our DNA. And the other thing that I'd like to say is that with regards to the CHANGI community, I think one of the reasons why there has been a lot of collaboration is that I think every one of us, every organization, every stakeholders in the CHANGI community, air community, we truly understand that our success depends on the success of the Singapore hub.
Yep.
And therefore, there is that larger goal to make Singapore a successful hub so that every one of us will be successful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I think some of the words that are going to be well referenced in history books and with next generations, they'll look back and they'll say, why? Well, not why didn't they, but the one sentence or the one combination of a sentence that I've yet to hear somebody say is that we've got an unprecedented task force collaboration in place. So those I think those three terms, if they put them together, it's a nightmare, and it's words that we keep hearing. But like I said, I've got a lot of experience there in Singapore and with the organisations from Singapore, and I totally endorse what you're saying there, Daniel. It's a great culture with regards to collaboration. Now, can I ask you all another question now? What would you say are the most critical and urgent steps that you feel are now necessary, to ensure an effective oversight and handling of the vaccines once they're established and once everybody knows what's going on? Because to be fair to our industry, we still don't know what we don't know. So there's a lot of information that still has to come specifically. And, I think the perception that it's all going to come in one big bang is wrong. There's a lot of focus now on how will it be selected, and a lot of the selection process will be based on the last mile as well. So that's an area that that's got to become more effective and more efficient. So from your perspectives, what urgent or critical steps do you think are now necessary for everybody to consider?
Right, if I may go first, right, I think I would say transparency. We really need more transparency, because I would say that even though the last couple of weeks or months, we have more information regarding the vaccines, candidates, and some of their supply chain requirements, but there is still a long list of unknowns and uncertainties. So Chris, I think earlier on you mentioned that, yes, handling pharma, right, actually is not foreign to the air cargo industry. We have been handling pharma for years, right, including frozen, even cryogenic temperature condition. The reason why I think people touted COVID-19 vaccines distribution as a very challenging task is because the vaccines development has been accelerated, right? I would say 4 times than any other preceding vaccines. And because of that, there is a long list of unknowns. Right. Yeah. Today, we are still not very sure in terms of what packaging materials, some of the vaccines candidates are looking at. What is the transportation conditions for some of the candidates? And also on the distribution model, are they looking at point-to-point, hub and spoke? How are they distributing? So there's still a long list of unknowns for us to, even though we are all getting ready and prepared based on scenario planning, but with more information, it will really help us, to be ready and plan whatever that is necessary, right, to make this a success. So I would say transparency and open communication, I think is critical and is paramount.
Yeah, 100% agreed. I think there'll be a big sigh of relief once the detail and how it's going to be distributed, and the points you touched on there about whether it's going to be point to point, whether how much is going to be trucked, how much is going to then have to be redistributed with regional carriers or even private aviation, who knows, but it has to get to everybody, because at the end of the day, we're all only safe when everybody's safe.
Yes, and then in recent weeks, right, I mean, there have been a lot of speculation regarding air freight capacity, right? I mean, some say 8,000, some say high 100, some say more than 10,000. I think the truth of the matter is we really do not know, exactly. Right? Until we have clarity on all the parameters, then we can do our own calculations.
Exactly, yeah. And people don't even know, how many shots will be contained, and that multiplies or divides, so there's unknowns. But that we're all waiting for that sigh of relief. So yeah, very good. And Suan. Sorry, Suan.
Yeah. From an airline perspective, I think I definitely agree with what Jaisey has just covered. So I'm just going to add on some points to it. I think for us, it will be also about having the capacity and being ready. We obviously have the scheduled freighters, but we also can operate charters, either using our freighters as well as our passenger aircraft on cargo. And on that front, what we have also done is we are trying to we are also looking, more news are coming up, right, in the last few days and weeks. And I think while there were a lot of unknowns, I think increasingly it becomes clearer that there will be certain points that, the vaccines will be coming from. And some of this may not be our online points today. So we have done some preempting and, like in terms of looking at these offline points, maybe appointing, doing security audits and clearance, appointing ground handling agents in these countries. So when the vaccines are ready and when we finally know where we are going to uplift this vaccine from, we could very quickly, operate the flight and be ready to help to carry the vaccines to the people of the world. Just from my perspective.
Yeah, no, very, very good. Very good. And Daniel?
Well, on this point, Chris, I think in Singapore, actually, I'm very glad that Changi Airport has taken that lead together, everybody together, so that we can work together to ensure that seamless handling of the vaccine. I think someone has to take the lead, and I'm very glad that Changi Airport has taken the lead, and everybody is supporting that. And on the point of transparency, I think I also want to emphasize on sharing. That could be transparency, but if there's no sharing, then that information do not get across to everybody, and therefore we are not on the same page. So that's important. So for SATS, again, another thing that we have done, which I mentioned earlier, we have cargo facilities in 13 other locations other than Singapore, in 9 different countries. So internally, we are also coordinating the sharing of vaccine information, so that at the end of the day, the objective is to bring every one of our facility in the SATS network to the same level of readiness in terms of for the vaccine handling.
Yeah, very, very good. And I think in the future, when people look back, there's a lot of things that people will want to carry on beyond what we've learned now. And so many people have had the chance, like you said, catch up on your training, re-endorse the importance of training, doing audits, looking at your SOPs, LOPs, making sure that they're effective, task forces, getting together, having airports more involved in supporting cargo, because there's a newfound respect for cargo. So all of those things coupled together. Just can I ask you one last question before we finish the podcast, a little bit of a one in the air. If you had a magic wand, or you were able to wish for something really positive to remain after we've got rid of all this legacy of waste, and please God, when the business starts to come back again and our colleagues get their jobs back, what would you like to see last way beyond people talking about the unprecedented times during the COVID crisis? What would they be? Who wants to go first?
I can take a shot.
Okay.
Yeah, go on then. Where you go, Daniel?
Well, I think I hope that the added spirit of collaboration will last beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, because that's very important. And the other part of it is really the sharing of information, be it through digitalization or through systems integration. I think that is also something that I hope will last beyond this current pandemic, because that is truly important for us in terms of moving to the next phase of cargo development.
Yep, very good, very good. Suan?
Yeah, I think I was just going to say that very much the same thing, really unprecedented transparency, sharing, and and that's really good, and alignment of interest, and I think this is something that we hope will last, and I think we will in Singapore, because people have come together and we have learned that working together, being transparent, sharing, adding actually adds value to everybody here, right? Because we all rely on each other to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's the wonderful thing about being in a team is, being happy that you're in a team, being happy with the position you're in the team, and not trying to hide or tell other people in those positions how and what they should be doing. It's so important now that the team of aviation becomes so strong as we move out of this. So, thank you very much, Suan.
And we get to know each other better as well.
Pardon?
And I think it's also an opportunity for all parties to get to know each other even better.
Exactly. Yep, 100%. And Jaisey?
Yeah, I do echo what Daniel Suan has mentioned, but from my own personal standpoint, like if I may add, right, I really hope that out of this crisis, that we will all remember the significance and the role that air cargo has played in this crisis. I think in the last couple of months, right, I've seen not just ourselves, but really when I look at other stakeholders, right, that is cargo has taken more significance, I would say, in boardroom decisions. I think CXOs, all the leaders are giving more attention to cargo. I have seen certain projects being accelerated. I have seen, there are more cargo initiative on a global basis, being initiated. And I really do hope that, people will remember the value and the significance that air cargo continue to play in order to restart as well as to enable our economies forward.
I think very well said. And Jaisey, thank you for those last words. Thank you, Suan. Thank you, Daniel. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking with people from Singapore. I've always enjoyed my time there. Well done for what you've done, and really appreciate your time taken with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you for having us.
See you soon.
Yeah.